If you combine a wholesome March 7th with some murderous intent and possibly some criminal history, you get Evernight. She looks gorgeous, she looks dangerous, and most importantly, she's here in style and you want to learn how to play her. Welcome to my comprehensive Evernight guide where we will be covering her kit, builds, teams, and everything in between in an easy to understand way. A quick disclaimer though, parts of the footage in this video are from the Creator Experience server. And hey, if you're looking to get these new characters and you're short on pulls, Loot Bar's got you covered. And here's a quick shout out. Now I know you're tired of ads as well, but I do think this could help you out a bunch and I won't make it too long, just 30 seconds of your time. Loot Bar's simple. It provides cheaper prices for various top-ups, including unique ones like a CYRENE guaranteed bundle right now, and they even have a version limited ordinary shard deal that usually costs $100, but it's just 80 now. If you're not one to drop big purchases, Loot Bar's got you covered with the express supply pass for slightly cheaper too. I feel like a housewife sharing discount tips in Walmart. Best part being there's no longer required, just your UID and server. Complete the payment and you see the resources you purchase in your account within 5 minutes. Plus, as you can tell by the reviews, they are quite positive. If there are any safety concerns, well, Loot Bar's also got great reviews even on Trustpilot. And well, I've had zero issues myself, so I find it more trustworthy than that. Reviews my link in the description right now. You can even obtain a 10% discount coupon as newcomers. It helped me out a bunch and no pressure here, is totally up to you. I'd appreciate it though. Now then, back to the video. Evernight actually has two observable roles, the first being a memo sprite buffer and the second being a solid HP based damage dealer. Using her with Castris in a full memo sprite user team makes Evernight more of a sub DPS with supportive capabilities to aid all memo sprites on field, making her a dream ally for the already strong Castris team. Loaded in her kit, Evernight and her memo sprite comes with a 35% self-crit rate buff, 200% crit damage buff, 110% damage increase, and 30% damage taken increase for the enemies, which we'll break down later. Her damage output on its own is great enough to just be a main damage dealer as well, especially once you've unlocked E2, but at the very least you'll be needing her signature for that role. Next up, let's take a look at her kit. Her kit is a lot of text which can be quite overwhelming to go through, but I'll try to explain it as simply as possible. Evernight's entire kit revolves around her memo sprite Eevee and gaining Memoria stacks, which is this number right below her character icon here. The more Memoria stacks gained, the more damage you deal with Evernight. To dive deeper into her kit, Evernight's talent automatically summons Eevee at the start of combat, and it has an initial speed of 160 with max HP equal to 50% of Evernight's max HP. Each time Evernight or Eevee loses HP, you gain crit damage buff for the both of them, and more importantly, you gain 2 stacks of Memoria. The moment you reach 16 Memoria, Evernight dispels any CC debuffs on her, becomes immune to them too, and if Eevee is already on the field, it will immediately take action while enhancing Eevee's attack. With this action, Eevee can now perform its unique skill, Dream Dissolving as Dew, which attacks all enemies, focusing more on the primary target. The damage you deal is based off max HP, and it increases based on the number of Memoria stacks you have when you use this attack. Once you finish the attack, Eevee dies and clears off all Memoria stacks. This is the bulk of Evernight's damage output, and her playstyle becomes apparent. Gain Memoria stacks equals profit. After using this attack and Eevee explodes, its talent's effect comes in, where Evernight gains 10% speed by default plus up to 40% speed buff based on the number of Memoria points consumed. This constitutes to a lot of speed for Evernight, helping you summon Eevee as soon as possible. Not to mention, Eevee's talent also states that it is immune to all CC debuffs and has an increased chance of getting attacked, all very helpful for survival. Continuing with her kit, Evernight has an ultimate that essentially amplifies everything I just explained. This ultimate automatically summons Eevee again and deals damage to all enemies. It's actually very solid damage output too, so do not sleep on that one. On top of that, Evernight gains 2 charges of the Darkest Riddle state. Only during this state, the enemy will take 30% increased damage, while Evernight and Eevee gain 60% increased damage. Quite a good amount. Oh, did I mention they are both immune to CCs in this state now? Yeah, it's pretty busted. The final effect from the ult is a big one. Eevee will consume 1 charge of Dark Riddle state if it uses its unique skill. This allows Evernight's next skill to gain 12 additional Memoria stacks. It usually only gains 2 stacks, so this is a huge increase. Evernight's skill consumes 10% of her HP to summon Eevee, or heals Eevee if it's already on field. Plus, it also provides crit damage buff for all ally memo sprites, and only memo sprites by the way, no characters involved. This shows how she really does support memo sprites more than the characters themselves, which really does make her more of a specialist. Evernight's technique is a simple one. You gain the same effect from your skill's crit damage buff and 1 Memoria stack, nothing too crazy. And phew, Now we can finally take a look at her bonus abilities. The first one increases Evernight and her Memo Sprite's crit damage by a massive 35%. Plus, you get to consume 5% HP to gain crit damage buff for Eevee and Evernight for every abilities used. Not to mention, you also gain skill point for using Eevee's enhanced skill. Just a cherry on top. Her second bonus ability provides her with energy and Memoria at the start of combat, which is helpful. But more importantly, when Evernight or an ally Memo Sprite uses an ability, Evernight will regenerate 5 energy and gain 1 Memoria. This is why you want to use her in a Memo Sprite team. That way you maximize this bonus ability and you should be able to achieve an ult usage every 2 to 3 actions by utilizing this ability. The final bonus ability says when there are up to 4 or more Remembrance Path characters in the team, all ally Memo Sprites receive increased crit damage by up to 65% while Evernight's skill lasts. This is the nail in the coffin that shows Evernight's design to reach her best potential in a Memo Sprite based team, where she simply provides benefits for specifically Memo Sprites. With her kit out the way, let's take a look at her Lightcones now. Her best Lightcone is obviously her own, which provides high flat HP stats to begin with, and it also provides 30% max HP increase. It's perfect for a HP scaler like Evernight. Not to mention, it comes with 20% defense ignore and 30% damage increase for Evernight and Eevee, providing solid damage buffs too. The final part is quite big, where you can recover 8 energy every time Eevee disappears. Now for Evernight that gains a lot of value with her ultimate, this energy is definitely valuable, especially if you're running her without the ERR robe. If you're thinking about whether or not to pull this Lightcone though, it will depend on what you want your Evernight to be. If you're playing her to mainly be a support to Castress, you can definitely make do with alternatives like the 5-star Memories Curtain Never Falls, which is free, Victory in a Blink, Sweat Now Cry Less, or the Flower Remembers Lightcone. The big difference between the signature and all of these options are that you will notice a big drop off in Evernight's damage output, given you're missing the HP increase and various damage boosts from a signature Lightcone. Yes, the signature Lightcone does help your team's damage by a little bit, but even without it, your Castress will still dumpster fire on her enemies without too big of a margin in damage output. However, if you're using Evernight as a main damage dealer, which by the way is only really recommended at E2, her Lightcone becomes much more valuable as it does provide her with great damage boosts compared to the other options. Plus, the energy gain definitely helps a bunch when you'll be running HP percent rope instead of energy regen to maximize damage output with a main DPS Evernight. It gets even more complicated when you consider the future CYRENE, which could also be a Memo Sprite user. We're not sure how they'll work with each other yet, and it's impossible to tell right now. Moving on, let's take a look at her relics. The best in slot is the all-new World Remaking Deliverer set, which is pretty much designed for Evernight. Pair that with the Bone Collection set on her ornaments, which is perfect for a HP scaler like herself, and you'll have yourself the perfect setup. Alternatively, you can consider the Hunter set or the Long of a set for your relic sets, and in terms of your ornaments, you can look for the Arcadia set or even the Von Walk set for unique speedy clears. In terms of main stats, you'll be looking for crit damage or crit rate body. Do make sure to not overcap on crit rate, since Evernight does get 35% self crit rate buff from her major, so chances are you should just go for crit damage main instead. You want to go for speed or HP percent boots based on preferred speed tuning, ice damage or HP percent orb based on whether or not you achieve the HP threshold of 5,000 for your bone set to activate, and finally you want to go for HP percent or energy regen on the rope. Now for the rope, HP percent gives you more damage output obviously, but you will see times where you're missing energy for ultimate by a little bit, especially if you don't have her signature Lightcone. Hence it is up to you. I do recommend going for energy regen rope for convenience's sake, so you always have your ultimate every 2 to 3 actions, which is much smoother to play with. And this is especially true if you're using her in a Castress team, where Castress can do most of the heavy lifting for damage output anyway. But honestly though, go for whichever stuff you have the better substats of. Moving forward, let's take a look at our teams. I'll start with a simple conclusion. At the same level investment, Evernight can replace Tribi or RMC in a Castress team and outperform them, especially for her own damage output and her constant HP change that charges Castress's ultimate. That means Evernight's best team is Evernight, Castress, Hyacinth, and Tribi or Remembrance Trailblazer. You'll be leaving one of them for another team. You'll notice as well that if you do go for Tribi in this slot, that does mean you do not have 4 Remembrance Path characters, which means you're not going to activate Evernight's bonus ability that provides you with up to 65% Memo Sprite crit damage fully. While that is true, having 3 Remembrance Path characters on your team still does activate the ability partially, and you can still gain 50% crit damage increase for Memo Sprites. It is only a 15% decrease, and what you get in exchange is Tribi's insane AoE damage boost at E0S1, holding dance dance dance. Overall, that is better value, especially when both Evernight and Castress can deal significant damage. After all, Tribby can buff both of them at the same time, while RMC can only really mainly buff one of them. Now, if you take a look at alternative teams, we will involve changing Evernight into straight up a damage dealer. And at the very least, you will need Evernight to be E0S1 for this. Pair that with Hyacinth, Tribby, and RMC, and the team would make sense. You'll do good damage with Evernight. It's just that it definitely does not break ahead of just using Castress with all of these insane supports. If we were to consider other team options outside of this, the choices are not too apparent because Evernight mainly aids Memo Sprite characters, and there are only one other character left that fits the description in the character pool, and that character would be Aglaia. It is certainly plausible to run Aglaia, Evernight, Sunday, and Hyacinth as a team, but it's certainly less suitable given Evernight's HP change mechanic simply fits Castress much better. Plus, you'd be sitting with too much skill points with this team, I'm not gonna lie. Literally everyone can generate skill point, and Aglaia damn near don't have to spend skill point. At this point, it's clear that Evernight's pull value is very high if you're looking to juice up your Castress team, and it is actually recommended for you to pull her if you're looking to replace, say, Tribby in your Castress team so you can use her in another team to open up more options. But let's not forget with the potential CYRENE that can synergize well with Evernight in the future, given both of them are of the same element and from the same path. That means Evernight's value could skyrocket even more in the future. So overall, I do recommend pulling her, especially with how we're getting the very next new 5-star character for free. So you should have some stash saved up. Hopefully you could get Evernight and make sure if whatever happens in the future, you won't be missing a really important character to help out CYRENE potentially. And finally, let's take a look at her Eidolons. Evernight's E1 allows all allies Memo Sprite to deal up to 150% of their original damage based on the number of enemies on field. Now, this is not considered as a numerical buff of your stats, but rather it's an independent multiplier, so that means it's difficult to dilute. Basically, what that means is that it's a fairly valuable Eidolon for boosting your entire team's damage output. I do recommend prioritizing her E1 right before her own Lightcone unless you want Evernight to be played as a main DPS. Her E2 is very valuable specifically for main DPS Evernight. You essentially gain much more Memorial stacks from every part of your kit. Expect to essentially more than double your Memorial stack gain, especially with how you gain 2 extra Darkest Riddle charge now. This pretty much makes Evernight deal explosively higher damage, so it is a recommended pull for main DPS Evernight. The priority would then be E2, then her signature, so no matter what, I would actually prioritize her Eidolons. If you don't have budget for E2 though and you're going for main DPS Evernight, then that means you want to settle for just her Lightcone. Moving forward, let's take a look at her E4. It is really not too helpful, providing weakness break efficiency. It's not something that aids a Memo Sprite team that much at the moment, so yeah, not really something you want to aim for. Her E6 is a strong overall increase, providing 20% all-time respen for the whole team, and you get 30% of your Memorial back after using Eevee's enhanced attack. But well, you gotta hit E6, so I wouldn't really go that far. However, if you got the money to spare, well, it is worth it. She simply does more damage now along with her team. With all that said, I hope I helped you understand the Dark Aura March 7th a bit better. Let me know what your team is with Evernight down in the comment section down below. I'd love to know. And yeah, feel free to discuss Evernight's team comps too. I think it's a really interesting topic considering future characters. And I feel like there's a lot of potential there, not gonna lie. And that will be all for this video. Take care.